I don't particularly enjoy repeating myself, and I don't really like repeating others. So when I do a video, I try to make it something that maybe someone's not done before, or the particular methodology is a little bit different, rather than a me too type project. There's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't float my fancy to put the work into it. For the most part, I think I do all right with that. A good example is my outfeed table is different from any others that I've seen. It's less utilitarian and it's a bit prettier, though it really didn't need to be. In this case of flattening my workbench, I'm not going to go through the whole process of how I did it. I'll show you through video clips, but I'm not going to go through the step-by-step tutorial because I can't tell you any clearer than the examples that are already online. Specifically, Mark Spagnolo, the Wood Whisperer's video on how to flatten a workbench with a router is spot on. That's what I've used as a reference here, and I've done a few things different and I will cover that, but for the most part it's the exact same theory. There's a link above and in the description to his video. Go watch that if you want to flatten a workbench, because it's the best video for it, because Mark, as always, does an amazing job, detailed job of explaining it.
The Wood Night is sponsored by I Would Like.
There's really two things that I did different. The first is I made mine out of form ply. I'm not sure what plywood Mark used. It doesn't really matter. I specifically did go for form ply rather than what I had on hand because one, it's very stiff because of the phenolic coating and it's a hardwood plywood. Two, it's pretty inexpensive, and number three, it's very slick because of the plywood, the phenolic coating on the plywood, which meant everything slid around a lot better. And on the downside is I can't use glue on it, so it's just screwed together, which is fine for this purpose. So the second thing that I did differently involves the router and all the configuration there. So I'm going to class it as one thing. Instead of just using the sub base on the router, I use the insert I use on my router table. The reason for that is it gives me a nice wide surface area. The aluminium is very slick on the phenolic ply and glides quite well. This lets me use my Triton router, which happens to be a 3¼ horsepower router, so nice and beefy router to drive this 2-inch bit. This bit is larger than what Mark used in diameter, and this is a slab flattening bit designed for, well, big slabs. Rather than just the 2 cutters that his bit had, this has 6. For my purpose, I kind of bought this with the idea of flattening this workbench, but also some slab work like the red gum coffee table that I did earlier in the year. Because this has such a short shank, as it's not really a useful bit outside of slab flattening, I had to buy a Collet extension and use a Collet extension. Both of these are from Timbercon. I'm surprised at the quality of cut from the enormous router bit. There will be links in the description below. They worked admirably.
Alright, here goes.
So with the workbench finally flat, I was able to take the divider over to the table saw and rip that to the final width or height, I suppose. And that was just a hair proud. Then I came back with a plane, a smoother plane. And now that is flush or very slightly underneath the surface of the workbench, which is great. So that way I can use it as a nice big workbench or flip her around. And I've got a planing stop. I know this is a short video and I was reluctant to do the slab flattening full stop on video because there's so many different ways you can do it. But as I said, follow Mark's instructions, it's perfect. He's done a fantastic job there. Alternatively, in most recent that I know of, Jay Bates also has a video on flattening workbenches with hand planes. As this is a hardwood workbench, I really didn't want to do the initial flattening by hand. Any subsequent sort of flattening, whether it moves in time or whether it gets dinged up and I need to resurface it, I may use a hand plane for that, but for this initial flattening, that would be a heck of a lot of work. That's enough talking for one video. Thanks for watching.